Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dark Pixel Podcast. My name is Mike.
My name is Landon.
I'm Kason.
And today we are going to have a little bit of a shorter podcast. We will have family in town for Thanksgiving. So we're gonna move a little quickly through this, but let's go ahead and go over what our topics are. Last week we talked about EA and the whole debacle with their microtransactions. It's been a big story for over a week now. They've removed those microtransactions. We're going to talk a little bit about that. It's temporarily. We've had some Game of the Year awards already. It's not the end of the year yet. We still got big releases coming out, but Breath of the Wild has already won a couple of them, so we'll go over that a little bit. Then we have a couple of topics here from the viewers. Daniel Imperial asks, when exploring a 2D world map, do you prefer to have random encounters like the older Final Fantasy titles, or do you prefer not having any combat like in Chrono Trigger? Okay. Press Start to Play asks, if you could make a TV show or movie based on a game of your choosing, what game would it be and why? All right, and then we've got Inanis with the final question. Have any games unfortunately adjusted your enjoyment of gaming as a whole? And the context of that is, have you played a game that was so good that it made you dislike other games? So we'll go over that. Yeah.
Oh,
so
I was thinking something else. Okay,
it set like a new standard for you.
Yeah.
Like, I can't go back to JRPGs because this JRPG was so good now that's like the new standard.
That's a rough life, but I'm sure it happens.
So, last week we were talking about EA and the microtransactions thing and how they had the most downvoted thing ever on Reddit.
Yep.
And also mentioned how they had then decided to reduce the cost to unlock the characters, but had also not known at the time or whatever that they had at the same time reduced the amount of currency that you get in the game. Anyways, somebody had pointed that out in the comments. So just wanted to say we saw that. Now, they've completely removed any way of paying extra money on those microtransactions altogether, temporarily.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, now you can't buy anything.
Well, it's like
the authoritative parent.
This has been, I mean, last week I thought it had reached a boiling point, but I mean, like, this is the most kickback I've ever seen to a practice like this, and I think it's been, like I said, kind of revving up for years, but this is just the right target at the right time, I guess, for everyone to just totally lose it. And not only have they done this for this game, they've also done it for the Need for Speed game, apparently. Either that just recently came out or that's about to come out. I don't know. I just saw it briefly in an article I was reading.
I don't know.
But EA, while like Take-Two or Rockstar, whoever it is that's developing Red Dead Redemption, while they're coming out saying, 42% of all of our revenue comes from recurrent revenue streams, and it's going to be in every game moving forward. Guys. EA, who's at the top of all this, is just like basically doubled back hardcore on all of this, and they're probably completely rethinking how they are going to present similar ideas in the future and try to make them seem...
Their stock took a hit. It dropped on November 20th. I think it dropped about 2.5%, and that's a lot of money for a company like EA. That's a pretty big slide.
The Rockstar thing reminds me. Somewhere, you might be able to find this, Mike, but somewhere somebody made a graphic of like all of Rockstar's big releases over the last 10 years-ish.
Oh, and
they were like, they had a big one every year until GTA 5.
Yeah.
GTA 5 came out, and they've had several years because GTA 5 has kept making the money
they haven't needed
through their online stuff. And it's just crazy. You see right there in that picture the difference that software as a service approach.
You almost see the light bulb going off in the CEO's head. Like, wait, we don't have to make games, and we can still make money?
20 games a year, you can just make 5?
We can make one game and freaking make money on it forever?
Yeah. Man, so if you're pissed about not having Red Dead Redemption 2 already, blame GTA 5 Online.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely. Yes. And get ready for... Well, I'm really interested because...
We'll see if this changes.
They came out and said this in the same week that this all happened with EA. So I wonder if there will be any amount of like reservation from them or any other bigger developer moving forward to
continue
be like,
microtransactions into Red Dead.
Did EA just ruin it for everybody, or are they just gonna take a break for a second and then come back with just a different terminology or a way of saying the same thing?
It's a marketing thing, right? So it's like it's how you package it and how you convince. Because I didn't follow the development of Battlefront 2 very closely. I just know people were upset. The Battlefront 1 didn't have a lot of stuff, so it seemed like they were going to put a ton into this game.
Yeah.
But I did watch that one trailer that John Boyega voiced, the big one they did in the beginning of October, I think it was, explaining it is all the stuff you can do in Battlefront 2. And he gets that section where he breaks down the microtransaction part. And it sounds very reasonable the way he's explaining it there. He's like, you're going to win battles and you're going to earn stuff in those battles. You'll take the stuff you earn and you're going to unlock stuff that's going to like be really cool. And then you'll play more battles and you'll earn more stuff that's really cool. And it's like, okay, that sounds good, I guess.
That's how it should work.
Yeah.
But then, devil's in the details. And I think people really started flipping out after the beta, which ironically might have screwed them over. Like trying to do a beta so there aren't as many bugs and your servers work when the game launches.
And instead people find out all your business practices through the beta.
Yeah, but there are definitely other ways to do the same thing though, right? Like any subscription service, like Nintendo is going to be launching their online subscription service next year. $10 a month.
No, it was less than that.
Less than that?
It was like 30 for the year.
Oh, that's right.
It was like 3 or 4 a month.
A couple bucks a month.
Yeah, super cheap.
Anyways,
that's just good for Nintendo because they haven't performed with their online, other than Splatoon. They have not performed with their online stuff up to where I'd be like $10 a month. Okay, I'm doing that. Like Nintendo kind of needs to fix things and show that they can really keep something like that going before we're going to spend that much on it. So I like that it's cheaper.
Yeah, that also is not like you're not going to get addicted to like you can't whale an online internet connection subscription. Like you're not going to be like this online Nintendo network's so good, I'm going to pay for it again, and then I'm going to pay for it.
That's true.
It's just
it's
a
subscription
one-time
service doesn't allow.
A month.
Yeah, for those rich people.
But
we're talking about trickle down. Rich people pay so that everyone else can.
Yeah, but definitely the whales are where the money is. So everyone's trying to figure out how to get to those people.
So all the rich people.
Get to the whales, dude. All right, everybody, sorry about that. I didn't want the popping audio to be an issue again, so we switched over to Skype. So we'll just continue on this moving forward. Okay, so anyways, EA, they're in trouble. They know it. We'll see what happens moving forward. I think most of us are probably anticipating that they will find some way to try and have a recurrent revenue stream and package it a little bit differently, whether that ends up being a monthly subscription for online or whether that ends up being microtransactions just worded differently. It is a temporary thing that they've removed this, so we'll see what they end up doing.
Dude, I know what they could do. They could take all the ad revenue from the YouTubers like Nintendo does. And then there's your recurring revenue.
Call it the EA Partner Program. And it's exciting and new and really great. You should all be a part of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Next topic, we want to talk really quickly about some of these Game of the Year awards that have already been given out to Breath of the
November.
Wild. So
yeah.
Who are these publications that are doing this?
The first one was Time Magazine. The other one is the Golden Joystick
Time Magazine.
Awards. Yeah. They care about video games, apparently. I don't know, the past, 2 years, maybe?
Also, there's video games, but not about the games that come out in December.
No, apparently they don't care about those. Or late November, even. But the Wall Street Journal has been getting more into video games lately, too. There's a few journalists that are tech journalists. And Forbes, too, that are just dedicated specifically to video games.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, Time is on that list, I guess. And they gave Mario number 1, or Breath of the Wild number 1. Mario Odyssey came in number 2 as far as games of the year.
For Time.
Yeah. But the Gold Joysticks was a little more specific, and they had a lot more categories. But Breath of the Wild won the big game of the year.
And I'm trying to remember if it was the Golden Joystick Award or if it was something else. But Eiji Aonuma and some of the lead developers for Breath of the Wild put out a thank you video, And in the video, they said, we're glad that Mario Odyssey came out at the end of the year and our game came out at the beginning of the year because we have more time to like rack up votes or whatever. There was like a popular voting system.
Oh, that's funny.
They were like, we wouldn't have gotten Game of the Year if Mario Odyssey had enough time to get votes. Which is kind of funny. Saying like, I think they made a better game than us.
Wow. Nintendo has two really, really good teams making different games. So
yeah, Game of the Year. People talk about it, right? They're like, "Oh, I wonder if such and such will win Game of the Year." What Game of the Year? There's like a billion Game of the Year.
Talking about? And there's
awards.
like 5 more that are going to come after when it actually probably should come
almost
next year.
Almost every AAA game that comes out has a Game of the Year edition that'll be released later on because they got a Game of the Year award from.
Because so many of them get handed out. Yeah, but there is the VGA, the Video Game Awards. That one comes like December 6th. That one's early December.
I think voting's open for that right now. If you want to hop in on that, but yeah, the Golden Joystick Award though they handed out a few different awards. One of them, the best how did they phrase it? Best story. Let me see here. Best storytelling went to Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people saying, "Oh, Nier should have gotten that." If I'm seeing in the comments of this particular article.
Interesting.
I don't know what else would have been. Maybe Persona 5 could have been a strong contender for that, but. Mike, you've played Horizon Zero Dawn. You feel like that's pretty well-deserved recognition there?
It's not like the best story ever. I think it ends a lot stronger than it starts, which is usually the opposite. Usually you have a really strong start, and then, you know, at the end of the game, it sort of falls apart. Yeah. It gets too crazy or whatever. I felt like the beginning of the game, I wasn't super hooked, but like I got more and more into the story as it went on, and like as the things were being revealed, I was like, "Oh, that's cool! Oh, that's cool." So it's not one of the better stories even in video games, but it's good. It's solid. It's pretty well executed for the most part. I would say personally that I think Hellblade tells a better story, a more unique story, and I think it's a better game overall, but you know, that's subjective. But Horizon definitely is deserving, I think, of all the games I've played this year to be at least nominated or recognized. So
for its story.
Yeah, I know, like we were talking about Nier a couple podcasts ago, but just the structure of the game, I think a lot of people bounced off of it. A lot of people only made it so far and we're like, I'm doing this again. And then, you know, I think like you were saying, a lot of the appeal in that is making it all the way to ending E or whatever.
Yeah, getting everything.
Yeah,
I think Nier was a little too Japanese, I think, in the story and in the fact that you play it over and over, like old school Japanese, which is kind of what they were going for with the bullet hell and like the weird
the little
genres that they have within the game. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of an arcade game, and that was back when. And you play it over and over. I mean, that was just a common thing to do back in the day. And Japanese games typically did the best at that. I feel like Nier was kind of doing a throwback there. But it also just it just seems really anime-like in its story. Very.
It is. Deep. It's not like bad, generic, cheesy anime necessarily. But
no, not like that. I'm talking like Ghost in the Shell, kind of like, you know.
Yeah, there are definitely
like good
elements.
Anime.
There's definitely elements, and it made it make sense. It comes from Japan, but
yeah,
I've already talked about Nier. I don't even talk about it anymore. I would not nominate it as the best story, just personally.
You wouldn't? Oh, okay.
Well, there you go. There you go. A few other big ones were best visual design went to Cuphead.
Right, cool.
Best audio went to Breath of the Wild, but I also saw a lot of people saying Hellblade should have gotten that.
They're both really good. I have no qualms with Breath of the Wild winning that because the way it handles its sound design is really, really phenomenal as well.
Yeah,
I can see why people are like, no, because of the way they recorded the voices and stuff for Hellblade, but yeah.
That's true. Like you were saying, there's going to be an argument to be made for most of these things, but apparently Final Fantasy got a Hall of Fame award, and I don't really know.
Yeah.
Like the franchise?
I think so. It just says Final Fantasy. It doesn't say Final Fantasy 1, so I'm guessing it's just the franchise.
Yeah, it's probably just the franchise.
So congratulations, Final Fantasy. You're in the Video Game Hall of Fame, I guess.
You deserved it.
Really weird.
Give a speech or something.
Award shows Dude, as a kid, I used to think award shows. I used to watch the Oscars and like that is the best movie of the year. They figured it out. This is amazing, you know. And now I'm like, oh, that's I see how it works. It's not really.
It's kind of stupid.
A little popularity contest, a little playing favorites, that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Who do you know? Who does the director know? I should say.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Like, we'll talk about Game of the Year stuff, but we don't give, like, a ton of stock to it.
But it's sad for Xenoblade 2 with Fetch, man.
Yeah, dude.
And whatever else comes out in December, I don't even know. Yeah. Battlefront 2 didn't even have a chance.
Yeah, Battlefront 2 came out, like, yesterday.
Yeah.
They couldn't win it. They would have won.
No chance. They would have if they had just released a couple weeks earlier. Anyways, award shows are stupid.
Yep.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But Breath of the Wild won some awards. Now you guys can rage about how it doesn't deserve it. Okay.
Hooray, we know just who you are, too. And how wrong you are. Because the game's freaking wonderful.
When exploring a 2D world map, this comes from Daniel Imperial. Do you prefer to have random encounters like the older Final Fantasy titles, or do you prefer not having any combat like in Chrono Trigger? Should the world map feel like a break from the story, or just allow some exploration? And just allow some explanation, or should it feel like part of the adventure? Okay, Daniel.
Interesting.
Well,
interesting.
It's not, for me. It's not an either or thing, but rather a like. I'd like the ability to just avoid battles when I want to. So it's like I prefer Chrono Triggers if I have to choose one or the other, because I just really like that. I'm just trying to get over there, just walk over there, not be interrupted for 20 minutes while I try to get over there. But I don't know, like it'd be nice if, like, I know like the Tales series and some others, they do world maps where they have the little guys that are running around and you can sort of run around them. Just don't make them like super hard to deke when they see you, because like they'll turn to see you and they get really fast, and it's like you're not fast enough to get away. It give me like a jump mechanic or something, so I can jump over the top of them or like move around them in some way, so that I still feel like I can choose when or when not to engage in battles. But if I have to choose between one or the other, I prefer Chrono Trigger's way of doing it for sure.
The one issue I've always had with Chrono Trigger, specifically Chrono Trigger, is that like the first time I played the game, I found a few occasions where I had a hard time finding like exactly the spot to go to like get into a town or something. You know, there's like that square you're supposed to be on.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was very specific sometimes with the art. I remember getting stuck the first time I played it in like 600 AD, I think, somewhere. And just be like this bullfetch, like everything kind of looked the same to me. I felt like I was overlooking a specific place where I should have gone, and that was so long ago. I don't remember the specifics, but I remember that's the only thing about Chrono Trigger's Overworld that I really didn't like. I think it's pretty good at establishing mood, because there's kind of the theme song, the way that works on the Overworld, and I do wish there was like a little more exploration. But one of the things I love about Overworlds is when you're cruising around, you can see a little island over here. It's like, oh, fetch, there's something on that island. I freaking gotta get over there.
How do you get there?
Yeah, and when you're more focused on avoiding random battles and beelining it between two villages,
right? You got to get the fastest possible.
Yeah, you're like, I'm just going straight here, because some games where you're like, I'm gonna explore and see if there's something to find, and you're battling like constantly, and it discourages that kind of exploration, which isn't always a problem. But I feel like in Final Fantasy IX, that became a little bit of an issue for me in parts where I'm like, I just want to cruise around and see what there is, you know.
Yeah. Gotta get the airships so that you don't have to fight battles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When I realized like the extent to which I hate random encounters was actually playing Breath of the Wild, because I always look back on a lot of the games with random encounters like favorably, and I think, well, it must not have been that bad, right? But when I played Breath of the Wild, and I know we're talking about 2D overworlds, but still I think this is relevant, because the anti-Sheikah tribe, what are they called?
Or the Yiga.
The Yiga. They, as you progress through the game, you know, at first it's like they're on the side of the road and you talk to them and you realize you shouldn't have, oh no, it's somebody, now you got to fight someone. But as you get the horses and as you just kind of are going and you learn to just ignore those people, they kind of just start appearing out of nowhere. And all of a sudden you'll hear the laughing and the dun, 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 and the music plays. And you're like, oh, great, where is he?
It's true, those are
like,
random encounters.
Yeah, it's essentially a random encounter. But as not often as that happens in Breath of the Wild, it was too often for me. I would just get so annoyed whenever an enemy would just kind of show up and ambush me. I get it, it's an ambush, it's cool, like it makes sense. But it gets kind of samey after a while, and it's like, okay, I'm done with that. Like I eventually just stop fighting them and I just keep going. And they leave eventually after they shoot at you 100 times.
That felt exactly like they took that directly from Skyrim, almost with a Thalmor. You know what I'm talking about, where they'll just, which was probably my least favorite part of Skyrim, where it's like, who the fetch are these guys, and they're so pissed at me and they're trying to kill me, and they're really strong, and you're like, you just have to like book it half the time, but they'll just run at you from nowhere. Although Skyrim does have at the same time the best random encounters in its own ways, because like that, some dude's running along, he's like, oh, fetch, I'm running away from these guys, can you hold on this thing for me? And then he runs off, and these guys come up to you, we were looking for this guy, and you can choose to rat him out or not. Like, that kind of stuff's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah,
things like
that
are
quest
cool.
lines.
Random things happening is cool, and some of them are fighting encounters, some of them aren't. Like, that's cool, and if they're story relevant, that's really cool. But when it gets too grindy, when it gets too samey, when it gets too, like, I used to, whenever in Breath of the Wild, when you fight the Yiga clan, I got a kick out of reading all their different stories. But eventually, you start getting the same stories pop up again, and you start hearing the things that you've already heard before. That's when, like, I wish that the random encounters wouldn't occur if it was going to essentially be the same kind of thing that I've already experienced.
I see. Interesting.
Yeah. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's more like that. It's not just that I hate them all, but I'm close to hating them all. But if each one offered something unique, that would be pretty cool. But that's a lot to ask of a developer.
Yeah. For me, and I think this is almost a universal principle. I talked about this in some of my Final Fantasy 13 discussions. But, originally the idea came in dialogue. You're writing dialogue, you don't want to use the same words or the same, talk about the same thing over and over and over again. The more you repeat something, the less impact it has. And then eventually it starts getting silly or tiresome or fatiguing or whatever. And that's a universal principle. That basically covers everything in the universe. Like, the more you do something, it becomes boring. If you're just repeating the same tasks. And so
that's pretty universal.
With turn-based RPGs that have random encounters, I feel like you get a new enemy type in a new area or whatever, and it starts to become okay again. It's like, okay, this is a new enemy. But if you're in the same area and you're just trying to get from here to here, and you fight like 12 battles along the way that are all the exact same enemy grouping or something at least very similar, and you use the same tactics in every single instance to get past it, and you're just trying to get to the next place for something new to happen, to break the repetition, that's when you start having problems. So I like it in games with combat systems like traditional JRPGs, turn-based JRPGs, where they handle the overmap like Chrono Trigger does, just to give you a moment to breathe and a moment to just like, okay, we're going to a new area. Let's like discover something different. Let's discover something new. Let's hear some nice music on the way or whatever. But to just continually interrupt you with battle. Eventually it gets fatiguing, and even
you just don't want
to
explore anymore.
Yeah, even in that game, which does the best job of any game from its era at avoiding repetition of battles, I was still tired of fighting by the end of it. I literally have never, ever played a turn-based JRPG where I was not sick of fighting by the end of the game.
I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that.
Every single one.
Part of that may be from the propensity that we would have to try to do as much as you can in the game before beating it. And so there's a lot of time where you could just go fight the boss, but instead you want to go here and you want to go here and you want to go here. And that results in just an innumerable amount of random encounters on the
Yeah.
way to each one of those things, because you want to do everything the game has to offer.
Yeah.
And you kind of shoot yourself in the foot because you end up really getting ticked off at how long it takes to do all that.
Yep. That's why I love games that give you the option of no encounters, whether that's by equipping an item that does it, or like Bravely Default does. It's like a menu option.
I like the item because it usually typically comes later in the game, and that's like, as I just kind of described, that is when the grind gets really bothersome, when you're just trying to explore at that point.
Well,
and that's usually when they give you an item like that. So.
Like the Pokemon games give you the repel spray, but if I'm not mistaken, the repel only works if the Pokemon you're encountering is a lower level than your
average,
than your
Pokemon.
Whatever the Pokemon you have. Yeah, so it's like repels don't work when you get to a new area, but when you're backtracking an old area, repels work.
That's pretty cool.
Which kind of addresses that issue a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Okay, well, there you go. That's our answer on that. Thank you for asking, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Daniel Imperial. Are you an Imperial? Are you an Imperialist?
Imperial Daniel. Press Start to Play asks, if you could make a TV show or movie based on a game of your choosing, what game would it be and why? I've always loved the idea of a Metal Gear Solid show, as I feel at least the earlier games could fit well into that form of media, given how reliant they already are on cutscenes. Metal Gear as a movie, it could work as a movie too, actually. But I think a lot of the games I play, which are very long RPGs, would never work in a movie format unless they were like a movie quadrology. What do you call that? 4, 5, 6 movies? Anyways, even as a movie trilogy, I feel like most RPGs that I like would not really... You couldn't really do them justice in 3 2-hour, 2.5-hour long movies, even Lord of the Rings, right?
Right.
So television shows, for the most part, I think would be the best option, like a 2 or 3 season long 10-episode thing, kind of like they do with the length of like Game of Thrones episodes. So that would be like 30 hours total. I think you could probably handle most RPGs in about that time.
Yeah.
Maybe even less, I guess. If you just watch
maybe
all
less
the
because you're skipping all the encounters, right? So
yeah. But yeah, I feel like most of them could work really well as a series or as TV series. I know that they're doing The Witcher. They've been planning The Witcher for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. When did we make a video on that? That was back at the beginning.
A while ago, yeah.
So I would love to see that as a television series. I think that would work really well. Especially since a lot of, like the early novels were a series of short stories. So you could even do like the whole, it's not like a serialized like series, you know what I mean? Like each episode is self-contained kind of
do a Witcher slice of life anime.
Yeah, exactly.
just fun.
He's just
cool.
hanging out, man.
Yeah.
Like they could totally go that direction with it for his early life if they wanted to, before they got into like the actual epic story section of his life. But I don't know. I feel like Final Fantasy games could work as TV series, not as movies though, for the most part. So I don't know. I can't think of any game for sure that was like, that should be a movie.
I used to think that more. Now I think that less.
Uncharted or The Last of Us, but Naughty Dog makes their games perfectly.
I know they make movies.
Cinematic. Yeah. It's already basically
what they do.
Yeah, it's true. They take cues from movies and mimic it.
If they were going to do it, they should have done it back when like Uncharted 1 came out, when Nolan North was young enough to have actually played freaking Drake in the real.
That's true.
He's too old now, so it wouldn't work. And I just can't.
It's too old, Drake.
Or a lot of people were saying Nathan Fillion, but he's even like he's getting too old to do it. So they'd have to pick someone like that.
But that's true.
I don't know though. Like we've talked about this in the past. Video games often don't work as movies for a good reason, and it's because they're designed as games, and the bulk of what you're supposed to do is play the game and interact with it.
Yes, not sit back and watch it.
Yeah, and so like my experience with, say, Zelda or something like that is unique to me. How I approached it, like how I encountered things, how I, the interaction and the discovery portion of playing games is yanked right out when you take it and make it into a movie.
Yeah.
Not that you can't create a sense of discovery, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah, you just can't remake the game, essentially. You would have to find a side story or find some other content to make a movie out of, and that's typically fine.
Yeah.
But
it goes the other way too. I mean, like, you don't see that many movies adapted into games that
are good
super well.
Not very often. Every now and then there's one or two, but not very often.
It's a unique medium, and in the few examples where the game directors were specifically trying to make the game feel as movie-like or cinematic as possible, I think it's very hard to translate. But yeah, Metal Gear could probably work. Uncharted could work. Last of Us could work. Any other game that's like meant to be truly cinematic like that could work. I think a lot of Final Fantasy games are meant to feel cinematic, especially since 7. So they could probably work as TV series, but not as movies. But
I think Trails in the Sky could... First off, Trails in the Sky is like basically designed to be an anime that you play as a video game, essentially. That's... People might not like that, but that's my impression of it, because you know how every anime has like... there's like this school festival episode, and the episode where they have to cross dress to get out of some scenario, and that type of stuff. You know, it breaks down into episodes really well. I mean, the game is broken into chapters, or the game's broken into chapters, so they're already segmented. But it's just so long, and there's so much dialogue. I feel like that's one that you probably could do. I feel like it would translate decently well to live action adaptation, because it's not leaning too heavily on. There's a lot of dialogue, so it's not as much like the gameplay per se. While the battles are interesting, I think it could translate pretty well to some kind of series. And now that I say this, is there an anime about it already? I don't even know. I don't think so. But it feels like an anime, like the whole time. Just feels like this is a season of an anime, which isn't like a bad thing. But you know, they're anime tropes pretty pervasively. Yeah, it's interesting, but I think that could work.
There you go. Trails of Sky, best movie.
Make it. Sell the rights. I don't really have an answer for this one either. Any game, if done right, could do okay, but doing it right is a different definition depending on what game we're talking about.
Well, okay, I was thinking about this. Okay, you guys finished the second season of Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so like
spoilers or no?
I'm not going to go into spoiler territory. Depending on no spoilers.
No spoilers.
It doesn't actually, by the end, you look back, it doesn't feel like that much actually happened.
Nope.
Technically. So like in a video game though, you look back and it's like, whoa, a ton of crap happened, right?
That's true.
Like the concerns you had at the beginning of a game oftentimes are you know,
they're
not the same
to
concerns at the end. Yeah. Concerns is in like what's driving the plot, right? So
right.
But like I think a lot of shows surprisingly just have a very, I don't know, like more straightforward plot, I guess you could say. Like it's just not as much happens in movies or even TV shows, I feel like. So although there are some shows where a lot happens, like 24, which is ridiculous because it's supposed to be in 24 hours. But by the end of the season of 24, you look back and you're like, oh yeah, remember when we thought this guy was you know, the bad guy, and like
and literally 3 hours later, he's not.
But it just struck me, season 2 of Stranger Things especially feels like not that much actually happened at all, and it's just kind of surprising.
That reminds me that Vagrant Story could actually be a very good movie.
Vagrant Story, yep.
That game, not only is it unbelievably cinematic, like the cutscenes are like,
really cool.
The most movie-like PS1 game, probably even PS2 game, maybe aside from Metal Gear that I've ever seen.
Yeah,
but that game takes place in like a day as well. Like the amount of time that transpires through it is a very short amount of time. So I feel like that could work super well as a movie.
Yeah, that would be a crazy movie. It'd be good though.
It's not that long of a game either. I think like if you know what you're doing, you can beat it in like about 10, 12 hours. If you're like if you're I know there's an achievement in the game where if you beat it in less than 9 hours, you like get like some kind of
holy crap.
Sweet.
So it can be beat pretty quickly if you know what you're doing. But yeah, so I think that could be a movie.
Gotta solve all the puzzles. But it's funny when taking into consideration games like LA Noire when answering this question, where it's like clearly some games were made and may as well have been a movie, right?
Yeah.
But then we're trying to be creative here and throw out other things that would work, but it's like you mentioned before with Last of Us or games like obviously some games would translate like flawlessly, seamlessly, perfectly into a movie, but they're not the ones that I would make. I would maybe want to make something else. A Splatoon movie would be killer. I'm doing that's my answer. Splatoon.
Holy shit.
Splatoon, the movie. That's what it would be called. And it'd be marketed towards 8-year-olds, and it would probably be awesome.
It would open Thanksgiving weekend.
Thanksgiving, yeah, it'd be competing with Coco. Coco 2. Yeah. I'm making it.
That sounds good, man.
That's interesting.
Okay. Good question. Thank you for asking. Let's move on to our last one. This comes from Inanis. Have any games unfortunately adjusted your enjoyment of gaming as a whole? I recently obtained the Platinum for Persona 5, and that game absolutely transformed my concept of what a turn-based RPG, maybe even JRPGs as a whole, could be. For a while, I could not even turn on many of my other games, as I knew they could not measure up to my new standard. I had to readjust my expectations before I could enjoy my hobby once more. Have you had similar experiences? And in what direction?
This may be unique to JRPGs, I think, because the menu-based, turn-based combat has evolved like massively over the past 30 years. And when you look at what it was in the 80s and look at what it became today, you see stuff in the 80s that's pretty hard to go back and play again, right? But I don't think I think I do a pretty good job of readjusting. I come back to a center. Like I get I enjoy games like crazy after a while, but I do a pretty good job of coming back to.
You just move on quickly.
Yeah, I just play another game and I'm like, holy crap, now this game's awesome. And I don't typically have the issue of comparison, I guess, with the other games that I've played. I do a pretty good job of immersing myself into the game. But when it comes to RPGs, yeah, some old battle systems are very difficult for me to deal with.
Yeah, I would say for me, there are like elements. Like, not like this whole game has made it impossible for me to play other games in the genre anymore, but there are elements of it. Like, The Witcher 3's side quests and side content has made it impossible for me to enjoy side quests that don't tell stories anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because, like, almost every side quest in The Witcher tells a story or, like, gives an important piece of lore or tells you something about its world or something. Like, they all have like a purpose and you learn something really interesting about the world or the people or whatever. And so I play that game, and then I play Final Fantasy 15 where the guy wants me to go do, pick onions for him and like just do mundane things like fetch questing that is very prevalent in RPGs.
Yeah.
And I cannot enjoy that. And I'm trying to think of a time where I ever enjoyed it necessarily. I don't think it's true, but where I tolerated it, where it wasn't like actively pissing me off that I was doing a side quest as meaningless as this. I'm sure there was a time, because that's how most games did side quests.
Is. I think there was some humor to it also when it was like, oh, my chickens are gone. Can you help me? And it was like a funny thing back when games were a little more cartoony. And now that they're more serious, but they still haven't left things like that behind. It's a weird mix.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I play The Witcher 3, and forever it's like that's what I want side quests to be. And that's hard to do. That's a lot of work. So a lot of games are going to ask you to go pick 5 apples or kill these 10 creatures or whatever, and then come back and talk to me. And that's not going away anytime soon, but I will probably roll my eyes at that for the rest of my life because of The Witcher 3. So
there you go.
Yeah,
that's funny. Persona 5, man, yeah, that's a game that will definitely have an impact on you.
That did a good job with RPGs.
As turn-based, have I played another turn? I have. Okay, so the only turn-based RPG I've played since Persona 5 is Etrian Odyssey 4, which is essentially a completely different genre, really, of game. But Persona 5 is absolutely my favorite turn-based system for an RPG. I had a lot of fun, and I actually look forward to encounters, which is the only game that I've ever looked forward to encounters. I'm trying to think like Pokemon, I get sick of encounters. Freaking Final Fantasy games get sick of encounters. Like Mike was saying, usually done with it by the end of the game. But Persona 5 did a really good job keeping that stuff really, really interesting. Okay, so because I'm playing Etrian Odyssey 4, I wanted to get into that Etrian Odyssey series, and I was looking at what people were suggesting, and they were all saying, like, don't bother playing the older Etrian Odysseys. Play the newest one, because they have all these quality of life changes that, like, were headaches in the earlier games, and this is just going to be the most enjoyable for you. And then, once you've done that, you really won't be able to work your way backwards, because you're going to be used to these quality of life things, and they're not going to be there anymore. So I think there are series that have evolved for the better with each consecutive game, and I think especially for series that don't like have a really compelling story to bring you back in, the mechanics, if they're just not up to snuff with what you're used to, that's going to make it really hard. So like if you're more story oriented though, I think old games can still bring you back if you're like, I want to go through that story again. Like there's some good stories that you can experience only by playing the game again, you know? And so I think that's almost like a form of like immunity, maybe, you know? It helps them age more gracefully, I suppose. But if it's just strictly mechanics, I think we're learning what video games, all these developers are learning from each other, right? And so someone will do something new and someone will be like, that's a great idea. And then they'll take it, put it in their game and improve their own game in the process. So it's hard to go backwards through that evolution sometimes, but like what we do oftentimes with a historical lens, that can give you a greater appreciation for something. But if it has a good story, I think that can really extend the shelf life of any video game. So
absolutely. So yeah, I guess this is just an extra thing to throw on top of that. I know I said that for me that game was The Witcher 3, but I know that like CRPGs back into even like Baldur's Gate, you know, they had quest structure like that. It's just that I didn't grow up with CRPGs. I grew up with JRPGs.
Yeah, right.
So The Witcher 3 was the game that did that for me. But I know Anvil and Josh and some of you other guys who play a lot of CRPGs are going to be like, Witcher 3? You don't know what you're talking about. You're right. I've only really of those old Infinity Engine RPGs. I've only played Planescape Torment. So hopefully I will amend that next year, so during the course of the patron streams and stuff. But okay, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Appreciate you guys. We had several other questions through Patreon. We just had to break a little early today, but if you want to ask again, feel free. I'll post another one on another posting on Patreon, so you can ask the same question again if you want that answered, and we'll get to it next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys again soon. Peace out.
Yeah.